Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Commissioner Look.
Here.
Commissioner Cardiac.
Here.
Commissioner Severaja.
Here.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Gamache.
Here.
Commissioner Schulte.
Here.
Then we have tax claims and abatements. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Cardiac.
Aye.
Commissioner Severaja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have review of checks issued from Finance and Central Services and from Human Services. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner West. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes from our January 26th County Board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. We have two items today under Chair's remarks. The first is a special presentation from the Association of Minnesota Counties to present the annual Award of Excellence for our Human Services Mental Health Intake Redesign Project. We're pleased that AMC Executive Director Julie Ring is here with us today. Julie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chair Severaja and members of the board. I'm pleased to be here. Each year, the Association of Minnesota Counties presents awards to counties who've demonstrated innovation in county government services. In 2015, 4 programs across Minnesota received this distinction. The recipients were nominated by their counties and selected by a committee of county officials chaired by President Jack Swanson, a Roseau County Commissioner. I'm pleased to present Anoka County's Mental Health Intake Redesign Project with one of these achievement awards for 2015. I'd like to talk a little bit about the program in presenting the award. Since March of 2014, Adult Mental Health Intake Services has been Anoka County's centralized access point for adult mental health services. Recognizing a service gap for short-term support services and an increasing reliance on civil commitment as a default treatment option, the redesign of the intake process provides increased voluntary preventive services to adults with mental illness, regardless of income or insurance reimbursement. Since the redesign of the intake unit in Anoka County, there's been a dramatic decrease in the number of individuals entering the civil commitment process, a nearly 35% decrease in the first 2 years since enactment. At the same time, Anoka County increased the number of individuals served. In 2013, the year before the redesign, the county received an average of 110 phone calls per month requesting mental health services, and an average of 17 individuals were assigned case management services. Since April of 2014, when the redesign was enacted, the county has averaged at least 578 phone calls requesting services per month, and an average of 36 people per month were assigned case managers, nearly doubling. By helping people voluntarily further upstream, Anoka County has been able to provide more services to county residents and reduce civil commitments, a real win-win for Anoka County residents and a model of innovation for counties across the state. Congratulations to the staff of your County Human Services Department and to the Anoka County Board of Commissioners on this well-deserved award.
Thank you, Julie, for your comments.
And I already handed the plaque off. Okay. To the staff earlier.
Wonderful.
Okay. It's right there.
You know, and this award really rests with the hard work of the staff in our department and their innovation and willingness to always strive to do things better for the communities that they serve. So I think that I would love to have you all stand up, and you deserve a round of applause. Thank you and congratulations, and thank you for what you do to always put our citizens first. We appreciate your great work. Our second item under Chair's remarks today is the annual report from our partners in public health at the Metropolitan Mosquito Control District. I'd like to ask Commissioner West to introduce our guests.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my honor to serve as the chair of the Metropolitan Mosquito Control District this year. And we as a board appreciate all the hard work of Stephen Manweiler and his team. And we're glad to have Stephen here today and his team member Josh Meditsky. And Stephen, if you would like to address us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner West, Commissioners. Before I start, I'd also like to introduce Mike McLean, who is the third person in the team who's here today. Josh provides service directly to you. He's a field supervisor. Mike is our public relations lead. So he and I work strongly together to craft our message and make sure everybody's questions are answered. Robin, thank you very much for the warm introduction. And I too would say working with Commissioner West has been really great. We've been able to advance the district quite a bit. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly to leave time at the end for questions, especially about Zika virus, which I think is on everybody's mind. I thought I'd talk about 5 issues, very briefly review for you the governance of the district, briefly review the 2016 levy and budget, then go through mosquito biology and how that relates to our control program. Finally, a little bit about disease prevention, starting with West Nile virus. We can end with Zika. And then finally, some plans for 2016. The district was established in 1958. We're governed by a board of 18 county commissioners from the 7 counties to whom the district provides services. The area is about 2,900 square miles. We've got a lot of wetlands and a lot of woodlands to deal with. We hire about 210 seasonal employees in the summer. We have 55 regular full-time staff, so we've got a lot of people out and about delivering services. Here is a list of the commissioners from the 7 counties in 2016. And you'll notice Julie and Rhonda and Robin represent Anoka County. We're really happy to have all 3 of them. They provide a lot of good input. I apologize for all the numbers. What I've tried to show with this table is that if you look at the bottom line, which is our budget, the budget has slowly gone up. Probably not surprising to anybody. Slowly but surely the cost of things like health insurance and control materials goes up. The amount levied, which is the second line underneath the years, has stayed the same until this year we finally increased it slightly. And again, that's primarily because of cost. What we're trying to do is to hold the amount of money that we take from everybody to deliver services as low as possible. We try to be as cost effective as possible. Why is mosquito biology important? First of all, how do mosquitoes develop? Think about a butterfly. Starts as an egg, goes to a caterpillar, turns into a cocoon. The butterfly comes out of the cocoon. Mosquitoes develop the same way. The main difference is mosquitoes lay their eggs either in moist soil, in temporary sites that flood temporarily, or they lay their eggs as a raft on the surface of the water. The larvae, that's basically its caterpillar, live in the water. The reason it's important to know that is if you know where the water is and you know the types of sites where mosquitoes will lay their eggs, that gives you a good indication of where you can control the most mosquitoes. In the summer, mosquitoes can go from egg to pupa in 5 days, which means we don't have very much time to get out there after it rained and control the mosquitoes. The mosquito remains a pupa maybe 2 days after that. The adults come off within a week. They're attacking people. There are many, many different kinds of wetlands that mosquitoes can develop in. These are 2 pictures of temporary sites. These are 2 pictures of sites that hold water for a longer period of time. Different mosquitoes develop in different sites, and we've got information about which ones bother people, which ones carry disease, which types of sites they develop in, so we design our control program accordingly. Most of our control program involves controlling the larvae. We use primarily 2 materials. BTI is a bacterium that was isolated from mosquitoes in Israel in the 1960s. It's been commercially available for about 30 years. It's specific to mosquitoes. It's very effective. It's also cheap, which is really good for us because we may have to treat upwards of 200,000 acres a year with the material. To be able to afford it, you need an effective, cheap material. Methoprene acts in a different way. It's a chemical that's like a hormone that controls development in the insect. There are 2 hormones in the larva that control whether it just becomes a bigger larva or signals to it that it needs to turn into the pupa. Methoprene disrupts that. Methoprene is a longer lasting material. It's also more expensive, so we use it at smaller scale, but we use it in places that might flood frequently. The methoprene can be effective for several rainfalls, and that saves us time so we can go to other sites and use BTI. We supplement larval control with adult control. There are 2 main types of applications. One application, which you may see during the day, involves treating shady areas, brush where mosquitoes hide during the day. The other involves usually nighttime treatments that target flying mosquitoes. The materials we use basically are applied, do their job, and disappear. We've chosen these materials for that reason, so we can get out there, they can do their job, then we have minimal impact on anything else. This is an example of how West Nile virus is maintained in the wild and then how it gets to humans. This picture is important for 2 reasons. The first is West Nile virus happens here every year. The second is many diseases have animals, either birds or rodents or some other animal that the virus perpetuates itself in. And there are usually mosquitoes that transmit that virus from one bird to another or one rodent to another. Different mosquitoes will feed on the infected birds or the infected rodents and bring it to people. Knowing that, then you know which species of mosquito larvae to look for in which sites, and when you're going through adult mosquito surveillance, you can get a better idea of when the vectors are available and out potentially impacting people, get the word out, and let people know that the risk is going up. You can also test the mosquitoes to see what the virus infection rate in the mosquitoes is and use that as well to estimate human risk, or in the case of West Nile virus, horse risk. When I mentioned vector habitat, the mosquitoes involved in West Nile virus, the mosquitoes that bring it to humans breed normally in sites that hold water for several weeks. The mosquitoes that transmit the virus from bird to bird mainly develop in man-made structures like stormwaters. That's why we have a catch basin treatment program and why we also have various wetland control programs. Last year, the West Nile activity in the country was relatively low. We've had years where we have 20,000 or 30,000 cases nationally. We had under 2,000. That's not to downplay the significance for those people who got sick. It's just an observation. Many people are trying to understand why. And if you look at the map, you see the Dakotas are dark, Oklahoma is dark, Colorado is dark, and California is dark. Those are the states that had the highest incidence of West Nile virus cases in people per 100,000. And those areas tend to be the higher areas in the country most of the time. A lot of it is because one of the main vectors that brings the disease to humans is most abundant in those areas in the country. In Minnesota, we had 6 cases, very sporadic. 3 of them were in district residents. 3 of them were in people who live outside of the district. Of the district residents, 2 were in Scott County. 1 was determined to have been exposed in Oklahoma. The other 2, that is the other Scott County resident and the Anoka County resident, exposure was equally likely within or outside. But it's a rare disease, or at least it was this year. We also monitor tick-borne disease, and we do this by trapping rodents. We've done this for 20-plus years. That gives us an objective way to measure when the various developmental stages of the ticks are available. And usually the nymphs are available out first. The nymphs are the primary transmitter of Lyme disease to humans. They are infected the year before as larvae. They're also dangerous because they're very small and they're very hard to see. You can see an adult tick on you much more easily than you can see a nymph. In the yearly cycle, larvae from the next generation come out next. They feed on mice that the nymphs previously fed on. They become infected, and those larvae will be the nymphs of the next year. That's how Lyme disease perpetuates itself. There are no cost-effective ways to control ticks, and for that reason, public education is the best we can do. But we do an awful lot of work with the health department to let people know when ticks, especially nymph ticks, are active and how people can protect themselves. Another service we deliver is black fly control, and this is entirely larval control. The black flies breed in small streams early in the spring. Later in the year, they breed in the Rum, the Crow, the Mississippi, and the Minnesota rivers. Another version of BTI is available to control black flies. It's a liquid version, and we put that into the rivers when our sampling shows that the black fly larval abundance has reached, it's basically a threshold. Everything is a threshold. So what are we planning for 2016? And I talked about managing our budget and expenditures. Basically, we want to maintain our service levels while minimizing the impact on Metro taxpayers. We want to deliver the best service for every dollar we receive. We also have had a sustainability program at the district dealing with things like energy. How can we most effectively use the energy for our buildings? How can we not waste anything? But it's more than that. It's how can we keep our employees healthy, both mentally and physically? How can we be involved in other things topics which may not seem to be directly related to mosquito control at first glance, but when you think about pollinator-related issues, yes, people can think of adulticiding and that possible impact that could have on pollinators. That's designed to stay away from pollinators, but it's more than that. How can we be involved in working with other agencies? We're looking at prairie restoration around some of our facilities, and that can serve as resource for pollinators. That's just one example. We're always interested in disease risk reduction services, and a lot of that is educational. When we get to some questions about Zika after this slide, that will be kind of the next step. And finally, we're looking at long-term succession planning and key employee retention. We will probably have 5 field operations supervisors retire this year. We've had retirements last year. It's nothing new. You're facing the same thing, and we're implementing a plan to prepare current employees to be able to step into these roles as job positions are vacated by retirement. So we have as little disruption as possible when the retirements occur. And with that, I would like to take any question you have, Zika or otherwise.
Any questions for Stephen? So in relation to Zika, do we have the mosquitoes, the same type of mosquitoes that could carry Zika? And if someone visits an Zika-infested area, if you will, and is bit, if they come here and a mosquito then bites them, does that mosquito then have the Zika virus and have the ability to pass that along?
Commissioner Sivaraja, very good question. The main vector of Zika is Aedes aegypti. That mosquito does not exist in Minnesota. And so the risk of Zika being transmitted here from person to person is extremely low. If you think back to dengue and chikungunya, both of those mosquitoes are transmitted by Aedes aegypti. The risk here has been minimal. On the other hand, traveling to a part of the world where Zika transmission is ongoing is the main risk to Minnesota residents acquiring it there and bringing it back here. There were some articles that talked about Aedes mosquitoes and implying that all Aedes mosquitoes are vectors of Zika. That's not the case. Aedes aegypti is the primary vector. Aedes albopictus might be a vector. That mosquito has been picked up at tire recycling plants here in Minnesota, but has not been able to survive the winter. So the Aedes vexans is our summer floodwater mosquito. That mosquito is not able to transmit any of these diseases. So we're lucky living in the north. There are a lot of advantages here.
So on those days when we're all complaining about the deep freeze, we can actually be thankful for that extra cold weather.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner West.
Stephen, if a person were to contract that, what is the treatment? I mean, is it involved, or is it antibiotic pills, or what?
Commissioner West, there is no treatment for Zika virus other than palliative types of things. A vaccine's being worked on, but they suspect it'll be several years before a vaccine is available. And actually, there are no treatments for dengue or chikungunya either. None of the antibiotics won't work against viruses.
So they just go through the illness and usually recover, just like other illnesses.
Yeah, Commissioner West, you're exactly right. The vast majority of people who are infected by Zika either don't know it or have such a mild illness they think they're having a little flu bug and it goes away. And of course, the news media talks about the rarer cases where there are worse complications.
Okay, thank you. A couple of other questions or things I think the public may want to be aware of. You know, there's a lot of discussion about pollinators, and can you just talk briefly about some of the steps and measures that are being taken within the mosquito control district to make sure that we are not endangering those pollinators?
Certainly. We have had outreach to the beekeepers for over 20 years, because if we know where beehives are located, we can plan our adult control operations to avoid the beehives. The materials we use have restrictions on them that are designed to minimize impact of pollinators. The restrictions being don't spray on flowering plants or don't spray anywhere where pollinators are active. The daytime treatments that we conduct are conducted in shady areas which are away from pollinators, so there should be very little impact. The nighttime treatments occur when pollinators are active, using materials that break down before pollinators again become active. That should minimize it as well. The biggest danger to us is if you have a woodlot and a beekeeper has beehives in there that are hard to see, and our people come around a corner spraying what normally should be shady area, and there are beehives there, we may not be able to turn off the sprayer in time. On the other hand, if we've been informed that beehives are in the area, it's very easy to modify our treatment so we don't impact any of those pollinators. A lot of it has really involved public relations and communications. Beekeepers are not pesticide adverse. They've got mites, they've got all sorts of things they have to deal with. It's mainly them understanding how we conduct our operations, and us understanding where and what they're doing with their beehives enables us to design our services so we do not impact them in any way.
Thank you, Stephen. I think that on your website, you have great information about where and when treatments are being conducted, and there's also an opportunity for people to communicate with you and let you know that maybe there are issues that they're concerned about, and they can have that dialogue with you as to maybe they're an area that shouldn't be sprayed.
Thank you for describing that. One other thing I would add is through our website, you can sign up to receive emails indicating when control operations will be conducted in your area. As another way, you can call us. We have multiple ways for you to communicate with us, and we're happy to talk to everybody.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
You know, we really appreciate all the work that you do to ensure that our residents are kept really safe and comfortable during the summer season. And we know that it's a very challenging role that you play, and that you take this public health risk very seriously and work to mitigate some of those issues. So thank you. Okay, now we will move on to committee reports. Management Committee report. Commissioner West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On our regular agenda, we have one action item. It is refund and fill a Human Services Job Training Center position due to a vacancy from a retirement. It's a 1 FTE employment and training technician, grade 9.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next item is on the additional agenda, and it is for 3 new positions in Human Services and Economic Assistance, and it's 3 1 FTE Financial Assistance Specialists, grade 10. And this is it for our higher head program, so we can prepare these new employees to be ready when we have openings in that area.
Is
Madam
there-
Chair, carefully discuss this, I'll move it.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? I think just generally for the public, as a result of the huge increase in workload with MNsure and the anticipated additional workload with MNsure, we thought it prudent to do hire ahead. We currently have overtime being paid for a number of employees just because of the massive workload. So this is a year-long training program, so it takes a long time for someone to really be brought up to speed to actually be able to do the work. So that is really the reason behind that. So, okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Moving on to Transportation Committee Chair Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Transportation Committee held its meeting on Monday, February 8th. There were 2 commissioners in attendance. I was not able to be there, so there was not a quorum, and I bring you a chair's report because of that. First, as the chair of the Transportation Committee, I recommend approval of a resolution setting the 2016 spring weight restrictions on the county highway system.
Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer it.
Resolution's been offered by Commissioner Kordiak. Further discussion?
The first sign of spring.
And Doug, do you want to just talk about when that would actually, how that works, how that's triggered?
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. County Board members, my name is Doug Fisher. I'm County Engineer and Transportation Division Manager. This spring weight restrictions go into effect when MnDOT puts their highways into effect, because it doesn't make sense to have part jurisdiction in weight restrictions and others not. There's a number of factors that go on in determining when that gets put on. Obviously, temperatures and extended forecasts for warming temperatures. The real tough period becomes when it's above freezing during the day and below freezing at night. That's when the roads are most susceptible. The ground is still frozen underneath the top layer, and really the pavements are at their weakest point. With a winter like this, I could probably expect that they'll probably go on fairly soon. And it's typically in February, early March when they go into effect. They will go into effect, when they go into effect, they will only be on for a maximum of 8 weeks. And again, there's some criteria at the end, again, looking at is the ground still frozen, are the temperatures rising, or is the extended forecast warming, then they'll take them off. And in past years, it hasn't gone the full 8 weeks either. But again, MnDOT does set that. They do have pavement monitors and weather stations that they use to help guide them in this. And throughout the state of Minnesota, there's a southern zone, a metro zone, central zone, and a northern zone. So they even cascade it through the state as it's appropriate.
Thank you, Doug. And all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next item.
Secondly, as the Chair of the Transportation Committee, I recommend approval of Resolution 2016-TR03, a negative declaration on need for an environmental impact statement, and adopt the findings of fact and conclusions for the project of reconstruction of Bunker Lake Boulevard from east of Crane Street to Trunk Highway 65 in the cities of Blaine, Andover, and Ham Lake.
Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll make the effort.
Resolution's been offered by Commissioner Gamache. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Next item.
Item 3, as the Chair of the Transportation Committee, I recommend approval of a resolution authorizing acquisition of right-of-way for the North Street Riverdale Drive Reconstruction Overlay Project from 7th Avenue to Round Lake Boulevard in the cities of Anoka and Coon Rapids.
Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer it.
Resolution's been offered by Commissioner Schulte. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item.
And Madam Chair, on that last item, I'll just pontificate for a moment to say that it is County Road 79, an under-recognized road by most jurisdictions, and it's in dire need of repair. It does come with some particular drainage issues, right-of-way issues that we have to work through. So this isn't going to be a really quick operation, and I think this is the beginning of a lengthier, arduous process, but one that absolutely has to be done. In the end, I think our hopes is to turn this road back to the two cities, Coon Rapids and Anoka, for them to operate going forward once we solve many of those tough issues. With that, I'll move on to item 4. As the Chair of the Transportation Committee, I recommend approval to enter into a joint powers agreement with the City of Blaine for the reconstruction of 125th Avenue between Radisson Road and Harper Street in the City of Blaine.
I'll move that.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
As the Chair of the Transportation Committee, I recommend approval to increase a contract C003525 by $20,000 to a total of $4,901,866.90, and to make final payment to Forest Lake Contracting for the reconstruction of Foley Boulevard from Trunk Highway 10 on-ramp at 101st Avenue to Egret Boulevard in the city of Coon Rapids.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner.
Just a quick comment to say how successful that project was. We've talked about it before. It drug on to 2 construction seasons, but it absolutely is worth it. Everybody over there is appreciative, and I think it bodes well for the next leg of that project coming up this summer, moving from Egret to Northdale.
Fantastic. All right, roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Cordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And Madam Chair, you'll see the rest of the items there are for your information, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Schulte. We'll move on to, we have an Information Technology Committee report as well as a chair report, and those will be done by Commissioner Gamache.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee met on February 1st, and we have just one action item from that meeting. It is the information, the committee recommends that the county board approve contract C0004858 with Pearson Wireless Corp. from Lincoln, Nebraska. These are materials and services related to the 800 megahertz public safety radio signals in Central Communications and also in the jail. The amount is $59,368.45 with a contingency of $5,936.55, not to exceed $65,305. There's a need, obviously, for help on the radio signals, especially in a place like the jail, which is built strong so no one can escape. And that means sometimes signals don't get in and out as well. So they had realized that there was a problem and something needed to be done. And this was our best solution. And Susan is here if anyone has any other questions on it. I do believe there were some plans looking at another idea that was much more expensive than this, but this was something that would fit the needs that we have right now.
Commissioner, you're correct. Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Susan Vreeland. I'm the Director of Information Technology. We've got two issues we're dealing with in the jail and in Central Communications. A lot of it is related to the construction of those areas and the rebar. We're struggling with cell signals and radio signals. What we had determined initially to be a very simple project is much more technically complicated than we assumed it would be. We know this solution will impact the radio signals. The technology behind the cell signals is rather complicated. It includes equipment for each provider on the roof of the government center, as well as a number of appliances. And that particular portion of the project is going to be put on hold. That portion was about $150,000. Many of the providers now are coming up with an ability to amplify cell signals through wireless. And so we're looking at that piece of the project being through a different technology. So that piece is being researched. This piece is ready to move forward.
Okay. Their motion to approve.
I'll move it.
Is there a second? Second. Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Cordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the chair report.
The chair report, yes. Madam Chair, we have requested the authority to enter into what they call an enterprise term license agreement with Adobe Software for the Adobe Acrobat licensing. The amount is a 3-year term in the amount of $60,000 per year with the ability to add licenses as required and budgeted. This product is used by more than 500 users in Anoka County. Over half of the users work within the Human Services Division, and there currently is a need to add close to 100 additional users in Human Services to this platform. In the past, this was a state contract, but the state is no longer a state contract. The product is no longer under that contract. So Adobe has come up with this vehicle called the Enterprise Term Licensing Agreement, and what it will allow us to do is provide the county with a number of efficiencies, including consistency, compliancy, consolidation, and continuity. Along with that, we get a 30%, approximately 30% over list price, so we're saving some money as well. Again, it's a 3-year contract, $60,000 per year, and we'll bring it forward here. And again, Susan's here for any questions, but everybody probably understands the importance of Adobe Acrobat in the workplace. And this is a need that and Susan and her team saw that we could find a way to get it, since it's no longer part of the state contract. So this was a good deal all around.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
It's been moved and seconded by Commissioner Look. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next, we will move on to Parks and Community Services Committee report and Chair report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Things are pretty straightforward today. The one action item that we bring forward to this committee is to consider approving a purchase of service agreement with the Conservation Corps. This is an effort funded by a workforce that serves a variety of opportunities throughout Anoka County's park system. They many times tackle projects that we simply cannot effectively get to. They do a very fine job. They bring a trained workforce. They bring people, equipment, trucks, and so on. It's funded with legacy dollars. They've been with us for several years now. I think we're very happy with their performance and pleased to engage this contract again. I will move it.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I will just comment, having the honor to serve on that committee with Commissioner Kordiak, I did learn through this that this is almost like our farm team. These are people that are really interested in conservation and parks and advancing that, and they go to work for the Conservation Corps, and we have the opportunity at that point to handpick the really high-quality individuals and move them into Anoka County positions. And I find that a really smart way to do business. And for that reason, I just thought I'd comment, because I really think it's one way we should continue to work, and perhaps in other areas we can find similar resources. We should avail ourselves of those.
Thank you. Great comments. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now moving on to the Chair report.
Yeah, the other items were information and there for your review. On the chair report piece, let me remind me, this is the Wargo Nature Center piece. I'm sorry. Anoka County has been working for some time to kind of redesign the Wargo Nature Center area, both inside and out. We have a lot of things that we've envisioned. We have several stages that we might like to implement. This is one of them. This pretty much has a lot to do with the entrance to that facility in varying ways. We've gone out for bids and rejected them at one point in time. They weren't quite priced right for us at the time. We reorganized, refashioned things. We went out for bids. We had 3 bids once again. This is the low bidder. This company has done numerous projects for Anoka County, and we would be happy with them. So I think I'd like to offer, Madam Chair, that we awarded a bid for the entrance improvements at the Wargo Nature Center to Pedersen Company in the amount of $144,745.
I'll move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Silveraja.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Motion carries.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Now we will move on to the public hearing. And I think I will go ahead and turn it over to our county attorney, Tony Palumbo, for the public hearing to obtain comment on an amendment to the county's capital improvement plan.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I would convene the public hearing for the purposes as stated by the chair. And notice of this public hearing has been published, I think, on January 29th. I would ask the clerk to make note of that and make it part of the record. And at this point, I understand, Corey, you are going to address the board on the particulars of this.
All right. Madam Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Palumbo, today we're here to hold a public hearing on the issuance of about $9.125 million of capital improvement obligation bonds and general obligation capital improvement bonds. These are for our courthouse remodel project, also some projects with jail improvements, and our Coon Lake Park improvements. The purpose of the public hearing is to allow for public comment related to the issuance of these bonds. And then during our Finance Committee report later, we will adopt a resolution that will authorize the amendment of the capital improvement plan and authorize the sale of these bonds, which will be for the board to consider. So with that, are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Kemp, of the board? Okay.
Okay.
All right. At this time, I would invite members of the public to come forward if they wish to make comments on the subject matter as stated herein. Is there any member of the public that wishes to come forward and address the board on this matter? And I'll ask a third time, any member of the public wishes to come forward and address the board on this? Okay. Seeing none, Madam Chair, at this point, I would then conclude the public hearing and turn the matter back to you.
Thank you very much. What we'll do then is, why don't we go ahead and move directly to the Finance and Capital Improvements Committee report so that we can take up that resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance and Capital Improvements Committee met on February 11th, and this was one of the action items we discussed. The committee recommended the county board, first of all, hold the public hearing today and then adopt, following the public hearing, the resolution 2016-F3, which is setting the sale of approximately $9,250,000 general obligation capital improvement bonds. You'll see the attached resolution there, and as was indicated, the amount is for the courthouse improvements, the jail improvements, consisting of locks, and Coon Lake Park improvements. And this is what you could refer to as need-based bonding. These are projects that are very important. Obviously, the locks in the jails and the courthouse, these are safety improvements for moving people through there and not blending them with the public. And Coon Lake Park improvements, of course, that's been a need for many years to serve the public out there. Now, while this does break our 4-year bond-free streak, it is I think a very important action that we're taking here today for these three named projects.
Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer.
Okay, resolution's been offered. Who's taking it? Commissioner Schulte? It's been offered by Commissioner Schulte. Further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Schulte.
I would just comment that I've seen a lot of bonding in years past, but this particular piece of bonding is really about infrastructure. It's about really solid, long-term capital investment infrastructure, and it wasn't done with a small amount of planning. This has been planned for a number of years and put off for a number of years. So I think the timing is right, and I'm glad this board is taking the step to enhance this infrastructure for the long-term good of Anoka County.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye. Motion carries. Next item.
Madam Chair, the second item is the committee recommends the county board approve the annual redesignation of depositories to U.S. Bank and Wells Fargo banks. Somewhat of a housekeeping deal every year.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Okay, is there a second?
Also,
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
and Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Okay, now we'll move on to Human Services Committee report. We have just a few items on the agenda from our February 11th meeting. Under Behavioral Health, consider recommending the county board amend a contract with Canvas Health for mobile mental health crisis response services, increasing the contract maximum to $516,603 from January 1st through December 31st, 2016. The next item is to consider recommending the county board amend the contract with Family Life Mental Health Center for adult rapid access psychiatry services, requiring that third-party reimbursement be sought for those with insurance coverage and also using unfilled appointments for other Family Life clients when possible. And then the next item is to consider recommending the county board amend the contract with People Inc. Riverwind for crisis residential services and healthcare navigator services, reducing the contract maximum to $87,100, again, from January 1st through December 31st. Really what's happened in that particular arena is there's been the ability to bill a lot of the third-party payers. So it has ultimately impacted some of the needs for the county funds for that particular project. So I will move items 1, 2, and 3. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Motion carries. Then we have Resolution 2016 HS3, the economic assistance bills and payments, and I'll offer that resolution. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Motion carries. And then we have Resolution 2016-HS4, proclaiming March as National Nutrition Month in Anoka County. And I'll offer that resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And I know the Public Health Department is going to have all sorts of fun activities to engage people in that process and recognition of that month. Now we will move on to Property Records and Taxation Committee report. It is on your additional agenda.
Really? Management method account. I wonder where you're drawing that from.
Get it open to it.
Oh, is it open to it? I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. From our last Property Records Committee, there are several action items that are before us. One of them is what we've seen them before, is an item where an individual has an interest in doing a lot split, realigning their property in regards to changing school districts, and we've always enjoyed those before. It's allowed by statute, and I'd like to
I'll offer the resolution. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
thank you. And Madam Chair, secondarily, we're looking at Resolution 2015 PRT3. This is a conveyance of a piece of tax forfeiture property the City of Andover has an interest in, and we're obviously happy to cooperate and work with them.
Is there an offer of the resolution?
I'll offer it.
It's been offered by Commissioner Gamache. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thirdly, we're looking at reclassifying some property as conservation properties. This would enable us to transfer them to subdivisions. We have 2 subdivisions in the next item 4, which actually are interested in these properties. But first of all, we have to reclassify them before we can transfer them. So I will offer Resolution PRT4.
okay, resolution has been offered. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next, Madam Chair, these are the same 2 properties, which we then will reclassify. Andover has an interest in each of them for water mitigation needs and issues, and someone might like to...
So is there an offer of resolution, so essentially it's Resolution 2016 PRT5 and
Yes.
PRT6?
I'll offer it.
Okay, both resolutions are being offered by Commissioner Gamache. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
And that, Madam Chair, concludes that report.
Okay. And then we will move on to the Public Safety Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vice Chair of that committee, I'll tell you that we did meet on February 11th. There were a couple of informational items that we handled, so there's really nothing for us to discuss here today.
Okay, thank you very much. That was short and sweet. All right. Now we will move on to item number 3 on the additional agenda. Consider authorizing the County Attorney's Office and Risk Management to settle Claim 10-580. And I will move approval.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Look?
Aye.
Commissioner Cordiak?
Aye.
Commissioner Silveraja?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache?
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte?
Aye.
Motion carries. Then we have committee appointments. The first one is on your additional agenda, 4A. Consider reappointing Brian Lindberg, the county attorney representative, to the Community Corrections Advisory Board for a 2-year term expiring February 2018. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Okay, it's been moved and by Commissioner Lux, second by Commissioner Schulte. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And then our last item is to consider appointing Reed Mortensen to the Minnesota Extension Committee for a 3-year term expiring January 2019. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And if there's nothing else to come before the county board, meeting's adjourned.